All right, everyone. It looks like we are just about ready to begin. We can see you guys. We can see those numbers coming up, and you guys are joining today's webinar. We see those numbers going up. We're so excited to have all of you here. I can see so far we've got 171 people tuning in. Thank you for being here with us. A good afternoon to everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today for a special Bespoke Lifestyle session by the Ayala Malls, of course. Themed today as coffee, cocktails, and craft beer. And we're just so stoked to get started on those three topics today. But first, let me introduce myself. My name is Carla. I'm your host for today, and I'll be guiding us through today's different sessions. And we've got a pretty packed episode this time around. I know that the first episode of the Bespoke Sessions was one topic and one speaker, and this time we have three. How exciting is that? We've got three different drink experts on standby today who will be sharing a bit more with us about their specialties. Of course, like I said, we've got coffee, we've got cocktails, and we've got craft beer. And I think it is just so timely because, we won't just be about perking up our mornings and spicing up those at home happy hour sessions. But I'm sure a lot of you guys can agree with me that, in the season we're in, we're spending a lot of time at home, but it's also been a chance for us to hone some new skills and learn something new. And that includes, all these different techniques maybe in the kitchen that we can learn to make different kinds of recipes and drinks. And today we're focusing on drinks in particular, especially because we've got the Christmas season coming along. And I'm sure, we're always going to find ways to make Christmas a time of joy and celebration one way or another. And so this is still very timely for us, I think. And you'll be learning blends, you'll be learning mixes that you can impress your friends with, even if it's via inuman or maybe an intimate holiday gathering. And so we're just really excited to kick things off. But first, let's quickly introduce our speakers. We're going to let them turn on their cameras and give you guys a little bit of a wave before we really get started. But don't forget that today you're going to get the chance to interact with each of them. If you take a moment to look at your screens, you'll see there's a little tab there that says Q&A. You might need to click on the button with the three dots that says more for you to see the Q&A tab. And that's very important because that's where you'll be sending in your questions for our speakers, okay? I'll remind you about that in just a while again, but first, let's say a quick hello to our three speakers. Like I said, first off, representing our coffee segment from the coffee giant Starbucks, of course, we have Coffee Ambassador Third Villaflor. There he is. And of course, the Media and Corporate Affairs Assistant Manager of Starbucks, Denise Barameda. Hi, guys. You can give us a bit of a wave there.
Hello,
We'll
good
be
Hi,
hearing
afternoon.
from
Carla.
you two
Good
in
afternoon.
just a moment. Yay. Great to have you guys. We can't wait for your segment, too. Now, aside from coffee, to teach you how to make refreshing Filipino-themed cocktails, we have Ken Alonso, the founder and resident mixologist of Proudly Promdi. Hi there, Ken.
Hi guys.
Right.
Good afternoon everyone.
Awesome. And finally, to educate us on the world of IPAs and drafts and craft beer, we have Nadine Fanlo of Pedro Brewcrafters. Hi, Nadine.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Carla.
Hi guys. How cool is it that we still get to do something like this? We found ways to work around having to be apart, but here we are still sharing our different ideas and these mini classes of ours. Really excited to get to that. So guys, we're gonna get to the four of you again shortly. But in the meantime, let's all sit back and relax because we're gonna be doing your presentations in just a moment. There we go. Now, guys, like I said, we have three segments for this session, lots of topics to tackle. We'll be starting with coffee, followed by cocktails, and we'll wrap things up with craft beer. Now, like I said earlier, there is a Q&A portion happening immediately after each of the presentations. So let's say we're starting with our coffee segment and you have questions for our friends from Starbucks. Make sure you send those questions as soon as possible because we're going to be talking to them right after their segment, okay? Now, in case you haven't found that Q&A box just yet, all you have to do is look at the bottom area of your screen. You might have to tap on the three dots button if you don't see it in the main Zoom screen. But just look for the Q&A tab, and that's where you guys can submit your questions, okay? So don't forget to do that, and don't be shy to ask any questions under the sun about these three topics. I'm sure our speakers will be happy to help, okay? So do send those in and we'll have our drink experts try and accommodate as many of those questions later on. But first, guys, I'm going to stop talking because it's time to get things started. Let's jump right in now with our first presentation of the day. And yeah, let's hop to it. To create the best brews that can inspire your mornings, let's watch this first presentation from Starbucks.
Hi, good day. I'm Joa Samson from the Starbucks Philippines Coffee Leadership Team. As you all very well know, Starbucks has been serving coffee here in the country for almost 23 years now. And since the day we opened our first store in 6750 Ayala, we have tried our best to make sure that only the best cups of coffees leave our stores. But these past few months have drastically changed a lot of people's routines. Although most of our stores are still open, to those who want to enjoy their regular favorites, we understand that there are still those who can't visit us as often as they would want to. And this is why, in the next videos, our partners will show you simple manual brewing techniques to help you be able to create and still enjoy good cups of coffees in the comforts of your home. Let's begin. It is always better to start with the basics. And for us, having and knowing how to use a coffee press at home is always good, as it is very handy and doesn't need electricity to operate. Let's watch as our coffee ambassador Third show us how to do it.
Hi, I'm Third Villaflor, a partner of Starbucks Philippines and coffee ambassador for Starbucks China and Asia Pacific. I hope you are all well and safe. Today, I'm going to show you how to brew coffee using the coffee press. It is one of the most accessible and easy to use brewer, so you can enjoy a good cup of coffee at home. What I love about the coffee press is it's straightforward and it will give you a bold cup of coffee that is both syrupy and really flavorful. We recommend using 2 tablespoons of coarsely ground coffee per 6 ounces of water. Add the coffee grounds into a clean coffee press. Add water. Water should be right off the boil. Place the plunger on top of the press and let it steep for 4 minutes. After 4 minutes, press the plunger and enjoy your coffee. That is how simple it is to brew your own cup of coffee at home. Feel free to leave your questions in the comment section below. Thank you and stay safe.
Simple enough? Yes? Great, because we will be needing that know-how on coffee press to have a clearer understanding of the next video. Did you know that you can use your coffee press not only to brew hot cups of coffees? That's right. In the next video, our coffee leader, Joer, will take us through the steps of preparing iced coffees using a coffee press. Let's see it.
Hi, my name is Joer, a partner of Starbucks Philippines, and I wish you're all doing well. Today, I'm going to show you how to make an iced coffee at home using a coffee press. To start, add the coffee grounds into a clean coffee press. The coffee grounds should be very coarse, similar to a coarse sea salt. Now, normally we recommend using 2 tablespoons of coffee per 6 ounces of water. But for our iced coffee, I've done 4 tablespoons of coffee per 6 ounces of water. This will double the strength of the coffee. Next, fill the press with hot water that is just off the boil. Put the plunger back onto the press without pushing it down and let the coffee brew for 4 minutes. After 4 minutes, press the plunger down and pour the double strength coffee into a vessel filled with ice. A small amount of ice should melt and dilute the coffee back to regular strength. Now you can enjoy a rich, Full-flavored iced coffee at home? Perfect for this summer. Thank you and stay safe.
Alright then. Another good thing about iced coffee is that it can be prepared in different ways. As you have seen, it can be done using a coffee press. Now, I would like to share with you, through our coffee ambassador, Kara, another way how to do it. And this is by using the cold brew method.
Hi, my name is Kara and I am Starbucks Philippines Coffee Ambassador of 2019. For this video, I am going to show you how simple and easy it is to brew your own cold brewed coffees at home. We could all use a refreshing cup of iced coffee, most especially now that it is really hot during the summer. And all you really need, of course, is coffee. So today I am going to brew with Starbucks Canada. It is personally one of my favorite coffees because I get to enjoy it either hot or over ice. Next, I'm going to need cold filtered water, a clean container to put both the coffee and the water into, and a strainer or anything to separate the coffee grounds from the brewed coffee once it is done brewing. Now there are so many ways of doing it with this particular brewing method. And with all these equipment that I have here with me right now, I get to brew my coffee in 2 ways, and I am just excited to show you how. So let's start. First up, let's brew using a coffee press. Ideally, you see this brewer more often to make a hot cup of coffee, but it is very much applicable too if you want to brew your coffee cold. I am using a coarse grind for this brewing method. I am going to add 35 grams of coffee and brew it with 250 milliliters of water. I will be placing the press in the fridge and let it steep for 16 hours. Next, I have here 70 grams of the same Kenyan coffee and I brew it with 500 milliliters of water. For this, I will be using a mason jar. By the way, if you don't have one, that is completely okay. You can just use whatever you have at home. I apply the same process of letting it steep in the fridge for 16 hours and then I just wait until my coffee is ready. Also, when you do start brewing your own cold brewed coffees, remember to set up a reminder on your phone just to make sure you don't forget. To strain both coffees, the coffee press comes in handy because it has its built-in wire mesh that makes it a lot easier. And when you use any container that you have at home, you can use any piece of clean cloth just to make sure that you don't get any grounds into your brewed coffee. When it comes to your recipe of how much water and how much coffee you are going to use, it really is up to you and how you prefer to drink your coffee. When I create my cold brewed coffees, I create a concentrated brew so I could make a bigger batch with the equipment that I currently have. I just add in more water to my coffee to dilute the beverage, or if I feel like drinking something that is creamier, I just add in cold milk instead. And that is how I make coffees at home. Now, I know that it may seem like I have brewed so much coffees, but I'm not really worried because the good thing about cold brewed coffees is that they can stay fresh for a few days. You can store them in the fridge for up to 5 days and that should still be okay. And that is just one of the good things I love about cold brewed coffees. On top of that, the unique characteristics of a deep syrupy sweet note and a smooth mouthfeel are what I always look forward to in a cold brewed cup of coffee. Now this cup is definitely my way of beating the summer heat. Once again, my name is Kara. Thank you so much for watching and feel free to leave any coffee questions in the comment section below. Please stay safe and I wish you all a good day.
Now let's move to another type of manual brewing method, the pour over. This method allows you to experience a little bit more of the barista craft as you will be the one to pour water onto your coffee during the entire brewing process. But don't worry, our coffee leader Emma will show you how simple it's done.
Hi, my name is Evan and I'm a partner of Starbucks Philippines. I hope you're all safe and doing well. So for today's video, I'm going to show you how to brew your favorite cup of coffee using a manual pour-over cold brewer. First, we will be needing a cold brewer, a paper filter that fits well with your cold, a server or your personal mug, kettle, which will dispense hot filtered water, tablespoon for measurement, discard vessel, and of course, your favorite Starbucks coffee. And now we're all set. Let's begin.
First, pre-wet the filter to remove the papery taste. Don't forget to discard the water. Put the freshly ground coffee and the grind should be fine and should resemble granulated sugar. For proportion, we recommend 2 tablespoons of coffee per 6 ounces of water. Before brewing, make sure your water is hot and just off the boil. If you don't have a gooseneck kettle, just use a water kettle with a pour spout you have at home. Now, let's begin. Pour a little amount of water and let the coffee bloom. This will ready the coffee for the brewing process. And then, you pour the remaining hot water in a slow and circular motion and let it brew for a few minutes. I like pour over because it's very approachable and highlights subtle flavor notes of coffee. Now, when individual drips begin, you can now enjoy your coffee.
So for ice pour over, normally we just brew a double strength coffee by cutting the amount of water into half and then transfer it to a glass full of ice. Thank you and stay safe at home.
Now, we have our last video for you today. This is using an AeroPress. This brewing method requires the least amount of brewing time among everything that we have shared with you today, as it not only uses temperature to extract flavors from the coffee, but pressure as well. Let's watch Yuri to know how it's done.
Hi everyone, I'm Yuri, a partner of Starbucks Philippines. In the midst of this pandemic, everything that we normally do seems to be on hold. Even getting a good cup of coffee from our favorite coffee shop is not that accessible anymore. But don't worry, because for today's video, I will be sharing with you how to brew coffee at home using an AeroPress. What I love about the AeroPress is its versatility. It is small, compact, and it travels well. It brews a single cup of coffee and is known for its faster brew time compared to other brewers. Now, let us prepare the other things that we will be needing. Now, we also need a mug, a spoon, our coffee, and hot water. Now, there are 2 distinct ways on how to use an AeroPress. First is the standard method, and second is the inverted method, which we will be doing today. But before we proceed, let me give you a quick run-through of the parts of the AeroPress. We have the plunger, the chamber, and the filter cap. Let's start. Take the plunger, insert it into the chamber until it's into the top of the number 4 circle. Now we're going to put 3 tablespoons of coffee. The coffee should have the coarseness of a sea salt. Pour the hot water that's just off the boil until it's into the top of the number 3 circle. Now wait for 30 seconds so the coffee will have time to extract. After 30 seconds, give it a few gentle stir. And then fill the chamber with hot water to the very top. Attach the filter cap and wait for 1 minute and 30 seconds. After a total brew time of 2 minutes, take the mug and place it on top of the AeroPress. Now, flip it together until the AeroPress is sitting on top of the mug. Push the plunger down until you have taken all the coffee out of the chamber. And there you have it. Now you can enjoy a rich and smooth cup of coffee at home. Thank you and stay safe.
And there you have it, some of the manual brewing equipment that you can use at home with any of your favorite Starbucks coffee beans. What's good about being able to manually brew your own coffee is that you can decide on your own recipe. You may choose to follow the standard proportion that we have given in the videos first as a baseline, then just adjust the ratio of coffee to water eventually as you get more comfortable doing it. Same goes when adding sugar or milk into your cups. I hope in our simple way, we have helped you learn new techniques in brewing and making your own delightful cup of Starbucks at home. Thank you and stay safe.
Okay, a big thank you there to Team Starbucks for those different ways to prepare coffee at home. You know, personally, I would go as far as saying that learning to make coffee at home or for yourself or for, you know, the people in your household, I would go as far as calling that a life skill because me, I can't start my day without having a cup of coffee. So really good to have those foundation lessons there. Now, before I proceed, guys, very important reminder, now is the time to send in your questions for Team Starbucks. Okay, because we're about to welcome them back. I can see them now on screen, but we're about to begin our question and answer portion. So don't be shy. Now is the time to ask any burning questions you might have about making your coffee at home, because we're going to get started now on asking them about it. Okay, we're going to try and answer as many of those as we can. And I'm going to start with my own question, actually. Hi, guys, Denise and Third. Let me share a little bit first about the two of them, give everybody a bit more time to send in their questions. Allow me to reintroduce the two of our speakers today. First up is Third Villaflor, who started as a part-time barista with Starbucks back in 2010 and eventually became a store manager. He was the 2016 Starbucks Philippines Barista Champion, and also in 2016, he joined the coffee leadership team and is currently specializing in coffee education and training, and is currently working on becoming an authorized Specialty Coffee Association trainer. Awesome. Hi, Third. Can we
Hello,
see and hear each
Carla.
other all right?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Hello.
All right, good job in that video, Third. Let's introduce your companion here. Also joining us from Starbucks is Denise Barrameda, Media and Corporate Affairs Assistant Manager of Starbucks. Denise has extensive experience in public relations and is a Public Relations Society of the Philippines member and an annual awardee at that. She initially joined Starbucks Philippines to lead public affairs and digital communications, but her role has since expanded to oversee corporate social responsibility for the entire Philippine business. Welcome, Denise.
Hi, Carla. Good afternoon. Good afternoon,
Hi,
everyone.
guys. Great presentations there. I'm sure everybody's got some burning questions about making coffee at home. I'm sure it's something that a lot of us want to be able to do, you know, not just in a basic capacity of maybe even beyond, and you know, maybe being able to try and get close to matching, you know, the in-store creations you guys make at Starbucks. But okay, let's get to it because we've got quite a few questions coming in already. Thank you, guys. Don't keep sending those in. We're going to try and get to as many of those as we can. We've got quite a few now, so let me already go straight to one of the questions here from the crowd. This one is from Pepsi Virai asking, is there a difference in the amount of coffee to be used if using light or medium roast coffee? That's true, because I think a light or medium roast might have stronger taste. So Pepsi's question is, should the amount of coffee be different?
Okay, so for the amount of coffee, we will still stick to our recommendation of a proportion of 2 tablespoons of coffee for every 6 ounces of hot water. So this is our ideal recipe, so you can really extract the full potential of the coffee. But if it's still dependent on your preference as a coffee drinker, so if you will find blonde or light roast coffees too light for you, then maybe you can just go for different roast profiles just until you can get the coffee that will really suit your preference. But in terms of recipe, we would still recommend that you stick to our recommendation.
Okay, good to know. So we don't need to adjust depending on the kind of roast it's at. All right. It's good to hear these different questions coming in, have them answered, because I'm sure a lot of people at home are wondering similar things. Another question here, maybe we can ask Denise this one, is where can we buy the equipment shown in the videos? This one is from Jerfine Marie Velos. Where can we buy the equipment shown in the videos?
For Carla, I believe all the equipment we presented in the video are available in our stores. You can just ask your barista. They'll be happy to assist you.
Great, good to know. Yeah, I do love passing by, looking at all the Starbucks merch when I'm in store. So maybe now we know. Next time we'll also keep an eye out for that equipment there. I'm going to throw this next question to Third. Back to you, Third. This one is from Madel, and Madel is asking, how can you brew coffee that is not acidic to the stomach? Very good concern here. I'm sure a lot of people would love to be able to have coffee more often at home, or even at all, because maybe sometimes, different people, different systems. So how can we make coffee that's not acidic to the stomach?
Okay, that's a very nice question because that's also a personal concern of mine. So, based on study, you can do cold brew for your coffee because cold brew coffees tend to be less acidic because the water that you are using to brew it is room temperature or colder.
Cold brew then. Okay, good to know. And we had a couple of methods shown in your videos earlier on how to make that at home. So good to know. Okay, let me pull up another one here from our audience. Hold on. Okay, on the topic of cold brew, I think this one is from another one of our attendees. On that note, how long could or should we keep brewed coffee in the fridge? Is that even advisable?
Okay, so if you are going to, there are two ways on how you can do cold brew. So the first one is that you can leave your cold brew at room temperature. So if you're going to do that, we recommend that you steep it for 14 hours. But if you are going to put your cold brew inside the refrigerator while it's brewing, it's going to take longer, and it will probably take around 24 hours. So ideally, coffee flavor is extracted by hot water, but since we're using cold water, it will take longer just for us to get good flavor profile from our coffee.
Okay, thanks, Third. I'm gonna give Denise another question here. This one, Aman, is about Starbucks. There's a whole new I guess a whole new system of the Starbucks card and Starbucks rewards, and I think a lot of us are really excited about that. So this question from Christine is, can you guys explain the new Starbucks card and rewards and points system? I think it's still new to some of us. It would be good to know how this works.
That's a great question, Carla. Actually, that's right. We launched a new program for Starbucks Rewards last July. The great thing about the new program is if in the old program, you only earn stars for every drink that you purchase. But now, for every 25 pesos that you spend, you get 1 star. So on anything you purchase, so you can buy a drink, buy a pastry, and you earn stars for every 25 pesos. And when you get 100 stars, you can redeem a free drink or a free pastry or a free slice of cake. So this is as long as you are registered in the Starbucks Rewards program through your card or through your app. So if you need more information, please do visit our Starbucks Philippines Facebook page or our website. and we'd be happy to take you through all the steps there.
Cool. Thanks for explaining, Denise. I think that's a nicer system. I think a better way to do it now, because it's not necessarily per drink, and you have to spend you spend less to get each star. So I think I'm liking where this is going. I'm excited to get my new Starbucks card set up already there. Okay, let's go to another one here about coffee preparation. Back to you, third. This one is from Jermaine. And Jermaine is asking, would the taste of coffee change depending on the method of brewing? So let's say you have the same beans, same water even, but your method is different given the same ingredients that you have. Would the taste and aroma change?
Yes, that's a very nice question. To answer the question, yes. Even if you use the same coffee, but if you brew that coffee using different methods, it will definitely, the flavor will definitely vary. So for example, if you brew your coffee using the coffee press, it will give you a bold cup of coffee. And then because it's really flavorful, because all the coffee oils will be retained or will remain inside the coffee press together with your brew. But if you use your pour over, it's going to be a different story, because this is going to be a cup of coffee that's still flavorful, but it will give you more pronounced acidity in terms of flavor. And then it will also allow subtle notes of the coffee to shine.
Good to know. Thanks, Third. I think a lot of us are excited to try those different methods, especially now knowing that it's pretty easy to get the equipment at any Starbucks near us, and so good to know. This one, either one of you, if you have ideas to toss into this one. I know that we've got grounds for your garden at Starbucks, but maybe there are other ideas for this. And this question from Raymond is, what can we do with used coffee grounds? Thanks for the simple, easy ideas. Used coffee grounds.
Okay, so for the used coffee grounds, most of our customers are actually using it as fertilizer for their plants. So I think it's very timely, because now during the quarantine, a lot of people are really...
We're all plantitas now.
Yes. So if you want, you can just drop by any Starbucks store. It's actually free. You can just ask baristas for used grounds, and they can give it to you. And you can use it as fertilizers. And then some would actually use it as air freshener. So for example, if there's like a really nasty smelling thing inside a room or something, you can just put your used coffee grounds in a bowl and then let it stay in the room, and then it will tend to absorb all the bad smell inside the room.
Cool. Good to know. I mean, I think we all, aside from our plant obsession these days, one of the trends we have at home also is, finding ways to be more conscious about about what we throw away. And so it's good to know that there are extra uses for our used coffee grounds. Let's see here. I think I've got another one here for oh, okay. I've got time for just one last question. So I think I'd like to wrap this one up with Denise. And Denise, this one's for you, and it is this. Hold on. All right. So I think all of us are in agreement that Starbucks is so baked into our Christmas traditions here in the Philippines. We all go for the stickers and the special drinks during Christmas. It's always such an exciting time for us. So because things are a little different this year, we're a little bit more stuck at home. Maybe we don't want to go out as much, or other different limitations caused by the pandemic. So how is Starbucks going to be a part of our Christmas celebrations at home this year?
Thanks, Carla. I agree with you. Christmas will definitely be different this year, but that doesn't mean that we can't celebrate. So we just have to celebrate a little unconventionally this year. So apart from dine-in and takeout, you can enjoy your Starbucks favorites through delivery via GrabFood. If you're heading out, you can drive through one of our stores. And apart from that, we're very much excited to launch our new mobile order and pay. This is through the Starbucks Rewards program. So the nice thing about this is before you're even in the store, you can order ahead and pay for your favorite drink. So it's ready once you get into the store. So in and out. So we're very much excited to announce that soon. So we hope to see you soon in our stores, or maybe through delivery.
You know you will, Denise. We'll be right there with you as soon as it's ready. So that's just about all the time we've got, you guys, for our question and answer segment. But thank you, thank you, Denise, for answering our questions, and of course to Team Starbucks for those videos, sharing with us those basic at-home brewing methods. Have a great day, you two, and thank you so much, and thank you to all of you for sharing your questions with us.
Thank you for
guys,
having us.
Thank you, everyone.
There you go. Thanks, guys. Really good chatting with you. Bye. All right, everybody. That was Third and Denise from Starbucks. And a big thank you to them for their knowledge, for their insights. And now it is time to move things along from our morning drinks to our happy hour drinks. Let's move on along to our cocktail segment, and let's see what's coming up next.
Hi everyone, my name is Ken Alonso of Promdi, and today I'm happy to share with you 3 different cocktails that you can easily do at your home. So for today, we're making our own versions of 3 different classic cocktails, which are all inspired by Filipino flavors. All the ingredients can easily be found and purchased in your local palengke or your nearby groceries. So the first cocktail we're going to make is a twist on the classic whiskey sour. We're going to add a bit of Filipino flavor, which is langka. So with this, we will need, of course, a bottle of whiskey. So any whiskey will do, whether it be Scotch, bourbon, or Japanese whiskey. Simple syrup. So to make simple syrup, all you need to do is combine equal parts of water to equal parts of sugar. So let's say you have 50 grams of sugar, just add 50 ml of water. Mix them together just to make the sugar dissolve. Next, you'll need freshly squeezed lemon juice. Then, of course, you have your langka. So for this one, I'm using preserved langka, which I bought from the grocery. So this is the langka that I bought, which I'm sure you could also find. But of course, if you have the fresh langka, that would also be better. So for our tools, we need to prepare our cocktail shaker. If you don't have a cocktail shaker, you could use any jar or container. A jigger to measure our ingredients. If you don't have a jigger, that's fine. You could use your measuring spoons that you use for cooking. So some of the favorites I have are the 60 ml one, the 15 ml one, which is the 1 tablespoon, the 1/2 tablespoon, the 7.5, and of course the 1 teaspoon, which is the 5 ml. You'll also need a fine strainer. If you don't have this, you could also use probably a tea strainer. For this one, we'll also need a muddler. If you don't have a muddler, something similar looking like this, which you can basically press our langka later on with. And of course, you need your glass and lots of ice. Okay, so let's start by getting our shaker and adding probably 2 pieces of langka into our shaker or container. So drop it as so. There you go. Set it aside. Next, let's get our muddler. Then let's really press and muddle our langka just to get the langka flavor out. There you go. Then let's add 15 ml of simple syrup. There you go. So since we have the syrup and langka there, we want to combine the flavors together. So to do that, let's get our muddler again and let's muddle. So we want to muddle thoroughly just to really get that langka flavor out. So it's like you're mashing potatoes, just to make mashed potatoes. Set your muddler aside. Let's get our fresh lemon juice and let's pour 15 ml of lemon juice into our shaker. There you go. Set the juice aside. And of course, let's add our whiskey. So I personally just add 45 ml of whiskey. But of course, if you want it boozier, you can add and make it at 60 ml. So So let's do 45. There you go. Okay. Next, let's add some ice into our shaker. There you go. So when you're adding ice into your shaker, you want to add enough ice to cover all the ingredients. So probably around that's 3/4 of your container. So when you have enough ice, close your shaker or your container and let's give it a shake, like probably around 10 to 15 seconds just to make it really cold. Let's go. So when it's cold, set your shaker down, get your glass, and add some ice into your glass. There you go. Get your shaker, open it. Then let's get our fine strainer and let's pour our drink into our glass. So it's a bit creamy since we muddled also some langka. So just be a little patient when you're pouring the drink. There. So we're basically also separating the crushed ice and the langka bits so it doesn't go into our glass. So let's put our shaker down. And now that we have our cocktail in our glass, let's also add the garnish. So let's get our lemon and get the lemon peel. And you want to hold the ends of the lemon peel together and squeeze the oils out. So the oils or the scent of the lemon goes into our drink. And you want to rub it around the glass, squeeze it, twist it, and drop it. So there you go, our langka whiskey sour. So for our next drink, we're going to make a twist on the classic mojito. We are going to make a mango basil ginger mojito. So with this, we need the following. Of course, we need our basil leaves, 3 pieces of calamansi. So I suggest to cut them in half and take out the seeds since we're going to muddle them later. 2 thinly sliced ginger, mango juice, simple syrup, which again is made of equal parts water and equal parts sugar, soda water, and of course white rum. For our tools, we will need, of course, a cocktail shaker. Again, if you don't have a cocktail shaker, you could use a jar or any container. A muddler, a bar spoon or any spoon would do. Your glass, I'd recommend and suggest a tall glass or a highball glass. Of course, lots of ice. So let's start by opening our shaker and adding 2 pieces of our thinly sliced ginger. And let's pour 15 ml of simple syrup. There you go. Then let's get our muddler, and we want to muddle this really hard. So what this does is we're trying to extract the ginger flavors out to add some spiciness to this drink. Once that's done, set your muddler aside. And let's get our calamansi and let's drop it into our shaker or container. Again, let's get our muddler. And now we want to muddle the calamansi. This adds more vibrancy to our drink. Next, let's add around 8 to 10 pieces of basil leaves into our shaker. There. Let's add some more. There you go. And of course, let's get our handy muddler and let's muddle again. So this time we want to be a bit more gentle with our muddling, since if we muddle it too hard, we'd actually extract the bitter flavors of the basil. So you want to muddle enough just to get that basil aroma out. Next, let's add 30 ml of mango juice. There you go. And then let's get and add 30 ml of white rum. There you go. Next, let's add some ice into our shaker. Once you have some ice, let's shake. When it's cold, put your shaker down. Let's add some ice into our glass. There we go. Let's open our shaker and let's pour the drink into our glass. Set your shaker aside and let's add around 45 ml of soda water. Let's get our spoon. Let's gently mix it together. And let's get some extra basil and add it as a garnish. There you go. Our mango basil ginger mojito. So for the last drink, I'm happy to share with you a very simple sangria recipe that's both refreshing and also very tropical. So for this, we'll need the following. 6 pieces of calamansi. So again, slice them in half and take out the seeds. Sliced pineapples, preferably around 4 pieces. Sliced local lemons or dayak if you have. So we'll probably need around 6 to 8 pieces of that. Ground cinnamon powder. Your simple syrup. And since I mentioned we're trying to make this a more tropical sangria, we're going to use rum. Red wine. For this, I'm actually going to use a local wine called Promdi wine. So it's a fruit wine made of berries. And of course, we're going to use pineapple soda or can. So the tools that we'll need for this one, you'll need a large vessel since we're going to actually make at least 2 to 3 servings for this drink. Your cocktail spoon or any spoon, your cocktail jigger or measuring spoons, and your ice. Okay, so let's start by getting all our calamansi and squeeze them inside our container. So one by one and drop the calamansi into the container. There you go. Next, we will add our local lemon wedges or layup. If you have, just add them all there. Next, we'll get our pineapple slices and let's also just add it into our container. It's very simple. There you go. Then you'll add a bit of cinnamon, so around 3 to 4 dashes. There. Then let's add 45 ml of simple syrup. There we go. With this, we will add 120 ml of rum. So that's 60. And another 60, and that's 120. So let's mix it a bit. There you go. Next, let's add our red wine. So So with this, let's add 300 ml of red wine. So with this, I'm using Promdi wine. So 20, 80, 240, and 300. Then let's get our spoon. Let's give it a quick stir. There you go. Then let's add a bit of ice. Get our spoon, mix it again so that it gets cold. Then let's add 180 ml of curry or pineapple soda. 60, 120, and then let's give it one last stir just to mix everything together. And let's add a dash of cinnamon for good measure on top. There you go. Our tropical sangria.
Ken Alonso there of Proudly Promdi. Thank you so much for sharing those recipes with us. Now, everybody, before we proceed, don't forget it is time for the question and answer portion. So you gotta send in any questions you have about cocktails right now. Now is the time to do that because we're about to ask Ken some questions. And also for our next presentation, if you have questions already popping up while the video is playing, that's okay too. So go ahead and send those questions at any time, okay? But for now, cocktail related questions. Now's the time. Keep those questions coming, guys, because we're about to get to it. I'm going to give you a bit more time while I read Ken's introduction here. Let me quickly reintroduce him now. Our speaker who will answer your bartending and cocktail questions and tell us more about the unique drinks he just presented. Ken Alonso is the Chief Promdi Officer of Proudly Promdi, a traveling bar that celebrates Filipino ingredients through signature craft cocktails and local artisanal spirits. The brand has been a committed partner to winemakers from Adams, Ilocos Norte for over 7 years. Ken is also a mixologist and brand ambassador of Zabana Rum Philippines, creating various recipes and conducting workshops for bartenders and hotels. With the traveling bar on pause due to the pandemic, Proudly Promdi has recently relaunched its bottled cocktails to bring the Proudly Promdi experience to your home. That's good to know. With a strong passion for cocktails, Ken believes that making them should be fun, simple, and shared. Hi, Ken. Can we see and hear each other just fine?
Yes. Hi, Carla. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon.
Hello. You know how it is these days. Always got to check if we can see and hear each other. Okay. Now, guys, don't forget you've gotta send in those questions now because we're gonna ask Ken about all things cocktails, and now is the time to do that. So keep those questions coming, and we'll be happy to answer as many of those as we can. Okay, Ken, I've got a very basic one for you. This first one from our audience is, let me get it right here. Okay, let's talk home bar starter kit. What is in the essential starter kit? Not only I think in terms of materials, but also in terms of maybe which kinds of alcohol to have in your home bar without breaking the bank too much.
Yeah, so actually in terms of tools, you can easily start, as I mentioned in the video, with just a simple jar as a cocktail shaker. So you don't need to buy a cocktail shaker first. Actually, the first cocktail shaker I had was a Tupperware those plastic Tupperware. As long as you can close it, as long as you can shake it, nothing will spill. That's fine. In terms of your jigger, as I mentioned, you could also use a measuring spoon. To start your basic alcohol, you can have your whiskey, gin, also maybe vodka, and maybe rum. I guess that's a good way to start with your alcohol collection.
Good to know. And it's good to know we don't need to jump straight into buying, equipment and materials that are too professional. Maybe I can call it that. So at least we can kind of start getting into the hobby of it if we're doing it at home with what we already have. So that's good to know. All right, I can see your questions coming in, everybody, and we're excited to get to them and continue getting to them. So let me jump right into the next one here. This one is from Jacqueline. I think this is for your first recipe, the one that used langka. And Jacqueline is asking, what other fruits can be used in place of langka?
Well, langka is just basically a sample fruit. You could also use any type of fruit. A good one could also be papaya, guyabano, which is now in season. You could also use even bananas. So it's really about experimenting and just trying it out based on what you have or what you can find, especially right now. So any fruit would actually work. Just follow the recipe, which is the ratio of the sour, the sweetener, and the alcohol. Then the fruit, that's what you can substitute with any fruit that you want.
Cool. And I appreciate that that you've been using local fruits because sometimes we try and look for cocktail recipes online. Maybe it'll use stuff that's a little less accessible for us. Maybe it's put half a cup of blueberries. We can't relate to that so much, not without spending a lot of money. So it's good to have these recipes with local flavors. Really appreciate that. And on that note, maybe we can get to this question here from Marianne. Maybe there's a local spin we can put on this too. Marianne is asking, do you have an easy recipe to share for a layered or multicolored cocktail? Oh, I want it to be fun and multicolored or layered. Is that hard to achieve?
Well, it depends on basically the alcohol that you're using. Layering, basically, it's based on the weight of the liquid. So basically, you actually want to start with something thick as the bottom layer. So basically, you can start with syrups or anything thick. Maybe grenadine, which is red, bright red. Then on top of that, you could also add maybe yellow, something yellow. So you could use like a pineapple juice or a mango juice. And then on top, you can cap it off with your alcohol. So if you want to keep it bright, you could stick with something white like a vodka or gin. And then that's it. Simple as that.
Cool. So it's all about the weight. Now we know. Now we know the secret for those rainbow cocktails.
Yes, or the shooters, as they say.
Right. Okay. Thanks, Ken. Okay, I'm going to jump into this other question real quick from Ernest. And it is, how long should you shake or stir your cocktails? Is there a specific time wherein it will affect the taste? Is it possible to shake or stir it for too long or not long enough? How long is the ideal amount of time?
Well, actually, that's a very good question because I get that a lot also. Basically, the idea of shaking is you really want to make your cocktail cold. And since you have ice and it dilutes as well, you don't want to shake too long. When you're shaking, you'll also feel it already getting cold. When you feel that it's getting cold, that's already an idea for you to know that it's time to stop shaking. But generally, a good rule of thumb is around 10 to 15 seconds. But again, it depends also on the ice that you use. If you use like wet ice or small crushed ice, that means you really have to shake less since it's already melted. If you're stirring a cocktail, make sure that you're using fresh ice so that it doesn't dilute too fast and it doesn't add too much water. So it depends on the ice and it depends on how much water you want to add in your drink.
I never really gave that much thought before, as in what whether you're using fresh ice or small bits of ice or large bits of ice. So these are the details I think that we wouldn't have gotten otherwise. So good to know. While we're on the topic of temperature, I've got another question here from Sheila. It's a good one as well. So we got to touch a bit on on the basic kinds of alcohol for your starter bar at home. And Sheila's question is, what's the ideal temperature when I plan to stock up on basic liquors for occasional cocktails? Do I need to refrigerate them?
Okay, a good rule of thumb, as long as it's not exposed to direct sunlight, your alcohol should be fine. But there are certain types of alcohol that you should refrigerate after opening it. So something like red wine, for example, any wine actually, you should refrigerate it after opening it if you don't finish it. Another would be, let's say, fortified wines. Like say that's also similar to vermouths and other spirits. Sometimes some people also store vodkas and gin in the ref. It's not the one necessary, but if you also want to put it in your ref, that would be fine. Dark spirits, let's say scotch or whiskey, rum, usually can just leave it outside of your cabinet or basically not in your ref. Dark spirits, not in the ref. White spirits, you can refrigerate, basically.
Okay, that's a good rule of thumb, I think. All right, let's move on quickly to, we've got a few more questions here while we still have the time. Okay, this question is from Christine. For our diet conscious viewers here, what is the lowest calorie alcohol and why are alcohols high cal?
Well, they're basically high calorie also since we're using syrups or sweeteners. So if you want a really low basic cocktail, a gin and tonic would be good since you're just basically using gin and tonic water, or basically highballs. Let's say a vodka and soda water. That's a good way to start with. If you want to add flavors without adding syrups, as I mentioned, you could just use the fruits like muddling it, or in the gin and tonic, just mix it and stir it together with spices as well. I think that's a good way to be diet friendly as well.
Good to know there are options still. We can still have fun with our cocktails at home, whether or not we're conscious of the calorie count. Good to know. Okay, we were on the topic earlier about endorsing our local ingredients and being able to keep things local. I mean, of course, the name of your group is Proudly Promdi, so very on topic here. This Haley's question is, what local alcoholic drinks do you recommend for making cocktails at home? So, are there any specific local brands to keep an eye on?
Well, actually, right now, a lot of local brands are emerging. There's so much to try. You have, let's say, Arc. They have a good gin. You have Don Papa. They have also a very good rum. Like for us naman, plugging as well, we have Tapuy, which is a local rice wine, and a Bugnay or Bignay, to a few, which is a local type of red wine. So it's also just trying and going out there. Maybe you can find some already in the Filipino sections of your groceries or your supermarkets. Any alcohol actually would be fine. So as long as it's local, it's also a good way to play around it.
Super, and I love that the selection is ever expanding. I think, I mean, it's really something that we can appreciate and be proud of locally. I have a question from Ernest again, and Ernest says, "Thank you for answering the previous question. Super enjoying this. Yay! Thanks, Ernest."
Yay.
On the topic of ice, so there is a particular type of ice to use per cocktail. What's your reco, and can we actually do it at home? That's true because I guess our appliances, our equipment at home isn't quite as isn't quite as complex as what you might have in a bar, I think.
Yes.
So what's your reco on ice usage and types at home?
Well, to be very simple, actually, my rule of thumb, if I'm going to use an ice for cocktails, you have those ice containers. I actually pour in hot water instead of just using normal room temp water. It's going to make the ice less cloudy, or there's basically less air inside that liquid, so that when you get it, it's actually clear, which makes the ice dilute less in lesser time, basically. If you want to make your own cocktail, there's your ice. There's so many YouTube videos about that. All you need is basically a small cooler and just refrigerate it overnight, and you get really clear crystal ice.
Cool. Up until now, I thought the whole clearer ice thing was purely aesthetic. So good to know
That
now
also.
that there's an actual. I mean, it looks really cool, doesn't it? It's like
Yeah,
it's like it's
yeah.
got bits of glass almost, but
Uh-huh.
good to know that there's also an actual practical purpose to it. So the hot water trick, really simple, and I'm sure we can all do that at home.
Yes.
I have one last question. We've got time for just one more. This is from Kimmy, saying that you were able to touch on making simple syrup in your
Mhm.
video, but
Mhm.
maybe you could walk us through it a little more thoroughly on how to make simple syrup at home. Is there a specific kind of sugar we need to use, or
Mhm.
what maybe you could walk us through it a little more thoroughly.
Okay. Well, as the name implies, it's very simple, simple syrup. So all you need to start with is basically your white sugar. So I'm sure everyone has them in their
White sugar.
kitchen. Yep. So just have equal parts of sugar. So let's say you have 50 grams of sugar. You should pour 50 ml of water to it. So if you have, let's say, 1 cup, for example, 1 cup of sugar, then just add 1 cup of water. Then you have to dilute the powder, the sugar. So just put it in hot water, or you can put it in a pot and just heat it. But don't boil it, since it becomes thicker the longer that
So
you
should it be
keep
on
it
low
in
heat?
Yes, low heat. As long as you see the sugar dissolve, that's pretty good enough. And another trick, actually, since we're gonna expand on sugars, you can also use brown sugar. That's also going to give out a different flavor to your drinks. We call that demerara sugar or syrup. So that's going to be a more molassy type of drink. It's a molassy type of flavor, basically.
Cool. And I can imagine we can even infuse a few other things into that
Yes,
syrup
yes.
if we'd like to.
Yep. Yep. Steep
Cool.
your herbs or anything, or even your fruits as well.
Good to know. All right. Ken, that's about all the time we've got for our Q&A, but I'm glad that we were able to answer quite a few of the questions here from our audience. So a big thanks again to you, Ken, for answering the questions, and of course for sharing those recipes with us. Now, everybody, if you want to revisit the recipes that Ken used in his videos, very simple. Also the recipes of our friends at Starbucks. When you fill out the post-event survey at the end of today's program, you can receive the event handout where all of those recipes are listed. And so you don't need to worry about missing out on the exact ingredients. We'll share those with you once you fill up the post-event survey, which of course is very important to us as well. We want to hear what you have to say about today's event, right? So very important to us there. Now, guys, it is time for one more presentation here. It's almost time. We're going to keep that happy hour theme rolling because it is now time for our craft beer presentation. So let's hear now from Nadine Fanlo as she takes us through the 101 on craft beer. Let's watch this.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're all continuing to be safe and healthy and sane. I'm so excited to be here to talk about one of my most favorite things in the world, beer. But specifically, I'll be talking about craft beer. So some of you may already be familiar with what craft beer is, but some of you might be thinking, what is craft beer, or what makes it different from regular beer? So I like to simplify that in 3 different ways. So the first is size or scale. So craft beer breweries brew in the thousands of liters a month, and some breweries that are even smaller, like microbreweries or nano breweries, brew in the hundreds of liters a month. So not very much compared to industrial beer breweries that brew in the millions of liters a month. And craft beer breweries are run by small independent companies too. So that's the first one. Size is the big differentiator. The second is craft beer is more often than not filtered or pasteurized. So large beer brands that we all know and are familiar with pasteurize and filter their beers because it makes for a much more shelf-stable product, and they're able to distribute it widely across the country or even to other countries. Whereas craft beer breweries, don't filter or pasteurize because we'd like to retain some of the things that contribute to flavor that may be removed from the beer if it were filtered or pasteurized. So flavor is our number one priority when it comes to beer, and we like to preserve that as much as possible. So with that, and still keeping those things that would otherwise be filtered out of beer, it's best to consume craft beer straight away as soon as you purchase it. So it's best consumed fresh and kept cold, if I may add. So when you store craft beer, you really have to make sure to refrigerate it. Next is the third one, which is craft beer is all natural. So we really like to stay true to traditional brewing styles and sticking to the four main beer ingredients, which is water, malt, hops, and yeast. And we don't normally use any additives or flavorings or colorings. And if we do add anything to the beer, we make sure that it's still all natural. So in the case of some of our beers, like our Space Out Coffee Stout, we do add something other than those four beer ingredients, but we make sure it's all natural, like a very nice cold brew coffee by Yardstick, just as an example. While we're on the subject of ingredients, I'd like to elaborate on those four main ones. So the first being water. So water is the base for all of the ingredients that we add to the beer, and it comes in as the first step also in brewing. So at our brewery, we make a beer called Endless Summer Wheat Ale, which is a German style wheat beer. And what we like to do is, from the very beginning, we like to test our water chemistry and to make the beer as authentic as possible, as something you might find in Germany. We like to replicate the water chemistry of the water that they would brew with in Germany. So next is malt. So malt is made from malted grain. So that grain is usually barley. And in the case of wheat beers, wheat, and sometimes we use other malted grains too to make beer, but generally we like to call it malt. Now there are hundreds of different types of malts that you can find. Some are lighter roasted malts and some are darker roasted malts, and there are many other varying roasts in between those. As you can see, this one's a lighter colored malt, and this one here is a darker colored malt. And just giving you the two opposite ends of the spectrum. And this is what malted wheat grain looks like, just so you can see examples of those. Now, malt contributes to the color of the beer and also some amazing flavors and aromas. Now, moving on to the next beer ingredient, possibly my favorite beer ingredient, hops. So hops are harvested from a vine. It's actually a flower. It's very aromatic, and it's what contributes the bitterness of the beer and what we like to associate beer smells and beer flavors with. So, but when you get really nice fresh hops, and most of them already are in pelletized form like this, you can actually get some amazing herby aromas, floral, citrus aromas even. So there are also hundreds of different varieties of hops that you can find. So as I mentioned earlier, hops contribute to the bitterness of the beer. So there's a misconception that dark beers are bitter. But if you notice that the bittering ingredient is different from the coloring ingredient of the beer, so the two aren't linked. And also, a misconception is that dark beers are quite strong or high in alcohol. So that's actually not the case, and there are some pretty light beers that are dark in color. So the next beer ingredient actually contributes to the alcohol content of the beer. So it's yeast. Yeast is actually alive, and if it's kept in the bottle, stored unfiltered and properly stored, it remains alive even when you drink it, and it's quite good for you. The yeast converts the sugars from the malt into alcohol during the fermentation process, and that usually takes 2 to 3 weeks, maybe even 4 or 5, depending on the type of beer that you're brewing. So those are the 4 main beer ingredients, and I just find it so amazing that with just 4 ingredients you can create so many different varieties of beer, which is especially evident in our local craft beer scene. If you didn't already know, aside from Pedro Brewcrafters, our brewery, there are so many other breweries all over the country that are producing some amazing craft beer that I personally enjoy as well. So even if we're stuck at home and we're not able to go to a craft beer bar to explore all these different types of craft beers, you can actually message a lot of our local craft beer brewers and they will deliver to you, including us at Pedro. Okay? So let's say you did decide to order from a local craft brewery, or maybe you have one of our beers, or even a tried and tested favorite of yours. There are ways, of course, to even enhance that experience. So I'd like to show you a way that I like to pour my beer to get that perfect head or the foam at the very top of your glass. So a lot of people tend to be very careful to not create any foam at the top of their glass. But the thing is, foam actually releases more flavor and more aroma when you pour it properly. And they also say that the foam adds a protective layer at the top of your beer, but really I like to enjoy it because of the aroma that it releases. Alright, so the first thing you want to do is, of course, open your bottle of beer or open your can of beer if you have that. Now hold your glass at a 45-degree angle. So next is you're going to pour the beer down the middle of that glass. And don't be afraid to pour hard, or if your beer is a little more carbonated or holds more head, you can adjust that during this time. So at the halfway point, bring the glass even higher or at a higher angle and continue to pour down the middle of the glass. So this will introduce even more air into the beer and create even more of the foam. Now remember, having foam or head on the very top of your glass is a good thing. This releases aromas and additional flavors. And of course, it looks really good too. And that is what a perfectly poured beer looks like. If you notice, I didn't add ice to my glass before pouring the beer. And this is generally something in craft beer that we recommend to people not to do. And this is because ice over time waters down the beer and it'll affect the flavor. But of course, beer is purely preferential, and what I like may not be what you like too. So if you really like ice in your beer, then by all means, and if that's how you enjoy your beer. But I do recommend that you try not putting ice in your beer first and tasting it just how the brewers intended you to taste it. Now that you've got the perfect pour, what do you serve with your beer? Now, I personally think that beer goes with everything, but there are certainly ways that you can enhance your beer experience or even your food experience by pairing your beers with the right types of food that go with certain flavor profiles in the beer. So first, I'll talk about lagers. Now, lager beers are probably the types of beers that we're most familiar with. So a lot of industrial beers are lagers. So your Pilsens, your Pilsners, and things like that are lager beers. So these are very neutral beers. They really do go with everything. You can't go wrong with a food pairing with a lager beer. These pair perfectly with lighter meats like chicken, pork, or shellfish even, and seafood, and even pasta dishes too, and sushi. I really like a nice lager with some sushi. Alright, the next beer style I'm going to talk about are wheat beers. So wheat beers are typically quite light still in flavor. They're very fruity in aroma, and they have a slightly tart finish. So these beers will cut through fried foods very nicely. So maybe a pork katsu or a schnitzel. So wheat beers are typically found in Germany, and so German foods would pair perfectly well with this. even lighter cheeses like a fresh mozzarella, or if you really like burrata like I do, it'll pair perfectly with that. So pizzas are a great option for you too. And also roast chicken dishes. So still lighter meats, maybe fish fillets and steamed fish will work really, really well with a wheat beer. All right, so the next beer style I want to talk about is my personal favorite, pale ales. We make one called Procrastination Pale Ale, and I find that it's a really nice example of a nice, balanced American style pale ale. So pale ales typically highlight the flavor of hops, which tend to be quite herby or floral. It's also a little more bitter than wheat beers and lagers, so I would pair pale ales with slightly stronger cheeses like cheddars and more flavorful spiced foods like tacos, pulled pork, roasted vegetables, and burgers, which we all know goes really, really well with beer, but especially well with a nice pale ale. Next are stouts and porters. So stouts and porters are darker beers, they're roasty, and they already have chocolate and coffee notes to them. So aside from pairing them with rich and savory dishes like barbecue ribs and maybe some stews, this beer style pairs really well with chocolate desserts and spiced desserts. So I would pair a really nice stout or porter with chocolate truffles, a slice of chocolate cake, and even ice cream. Vanilla ice cream works really well with a nice rich stout. And even spiced desserts like maybe a pumpkin pie or a sweet potato pie that works really, really well with these beers. Another popular beer style among craft beer lovers are India Pale Ales, or IPAs for short. IPAs are very similar to pale ales in that they highlight the hoppy flavors of the beer, but doubled. So these beers are known to be more bitter and higher in alcohol than the other beer styles, and quite strong in flavor and aroma. So you'll want to pair this with foods that will stand up to those flavors. So I recommend steaks, smoked meats, curries are an excellent option, and also strong cheeses. So if you're a fan of blue cheese, it would go really, really well with an IPA. And that's pretty much it for today. This doesn't cover anywhere near the variety of beers that are currently available in the market, but it does cover the basics. So I hope that you guys are inspired and excited to try new beers that maybe you haven't tried before and pair them with your favorite dishes. So I hope you guys learned something new, and I certainly had a lot of fun talking about beer today. So thank you very much.
All right, Nadine Fanlo there from Pedro Brewcrafters. Thank you so much for that presentation. Now, guys, we're just about to head into our question and answer portion. So now is the time to send in any questions you might have for Nadine. You got to get those questions in because we're about to get started. Again, just a reminder, if you haven't spotted that Q&A tab, you got to go to the bottom of your screen, and there should be a tab that says Q&A. If you don't see it, you might have to tap that the three dots button in order to see that question and answer button, so you can send in any queries you might have for Nadine. But hop to it because we're about to get started. But first, let me reintroduce the speaker herself, Ms. Nadine Howell-Fanlo. She is the co-founder and director of sales and marketing of Pedro Brewcrafters, one of the country's first commercial craft beer breweries based in San Pedro, Laguna. With a background in culinary arts and the food and beverage industry for over 10 years, Nadine's passion is combining her love for food and beer, which we definitely saw in those pairing suggestions. Nadine, welcome back. Hello.
Hi there, Carla. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon.
Thanks for all those tips, Nadine. I think we even from that we learned quite a lot already. So I'm really excited for the questions we'll be answering here.
I am too.
Shall we hop right to it then? Let's see what we've got here. We've got quite a few coming in. Guys, again, Q&A tab down below. Now is the time to send those questions in. The first one I have for you is from Reinhardt, asking where to get starter kits for craft beer brewing. Now, I think that you have recommendations for a DIY way of doing it, but there's maybe also something a bit more legit, I guess. So what would you recommend for either of the two?
Yeah, so we've gotten a few inquiries ourselves about possibly getting some starter kits for people from us to brew our beers or try some basic beer recipes at home. So we're actually working on something that we're releasing in the future for that, for people who are interested in getting started in home brewing and using some of their kitchen equipment or whatever they have around the house. So there's that. So stay tuned for that. And in the meantime, you can source brewing equipment and brewing ingredients in small scale for brewing at home through Facebook groups. So there's a local homebrew craft beer group called the Manila Mashers. So if you do a quick search, you'll find everything you need there.
Manila Mashers.
Yeah.
Good to know. Okay. Thanks, Nadine. Let's keep going on this track of first timers and people who are just getting into craft beer and making it at home. So I've got a question from Rishi here who says, I guess this is more of a terminology question. So when beer brewers say the beer is hops forward, what does that mean and what does it taste like?
Okay, hi Rishi. Thank you for the question. So when a craft beer brewer says that a beer is hop forward, it means that the beer is highlighting the beer ingredient hops, which I mentioned earlier in the video. So you'll notice that the beer will generally be a little more bitter, a little more aromatic. Maybe it has like a floral or herby aroma, and that typically is what, in general, we say is more hop forward.
Okay, good to know. So it's the standout ingredient
Yes.
when it's hops forward. Cool.
Right.
All right, so let's keep on that same track of I guess getting introduced to not only the terminology, I guess, but also even just I guess acquiring the taste for it, because it's not exactly the same as getting your usual local beers that are I guess we could call them mass produced, right? Because it's a much larger scale. So this question here. What kind of beers would you recommend for people who aren't super into beer? Which, understandable, same thing for coffee. I think, maybe as a beginner or someone who is starting from zero in this topic and, acquiring the taste, it can be, it might come on a little strong. So what kind of craft beer do you recommend for someone who's not that into beer?
Right. This is a great question. And we get a lot of people who get surprised by actually enjoying a craft beer because they say that it reminds them of wine almost. So usually I get those comments from people who try wheat ales. So I highly recommend starting off with a wheat ale or even beers that are very low in bitterness and are on the fruitier flavor profile. So wheat ales are a great one, and pilsners. So those are really nice and easy drinking, very crisp and light. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, there are stouts. So those are more chocolatey and even more coffee, with coffee notes there. So people who like chocolate and coffee tend to enjoy those too.
Something I learned from your talk just now actually was that just because it's dark doesn't mean that it's a very strong taste.
Yeah.
So that's good to know too, because I think off the bat, maybe in your early times going out and drinking out with friends, and they'll always recommend like, oh, if you're not into beer, start with the lightest one, and color wise the lightest one.
Yeah.
So it's good to know that we do have options to try those darker beers and not get too overwhelmed if we're
For
first
sure,
timers.
yeah. There are lighter colored beers that are bitter. So people who are a little more averse to bitterness will want to keep an eye out for the IPAs or pale ales. Those might be on the next stage.
Yeah. Well, it's a journey.
It is.
I would think. Okay. All right. Here's a good one from Hubert O'Malley. And Hugh is asking, is there a one-stop shop where we can purchase the many locally produced craft beers? That would be a great thing to know, I think. Is there a one-stop shop currently where we can get those?
Yeah, I would recommend checking out the PCK. And they have a great website where you can order online. They represent most of the local craft beer breweries and also local craft spirits if you guys are interested in that too. So yeah, the PCK is a really good one and they deliver.
They deliver. Awesome.
Yes.
Okay. Let's related question to that one. How about this question is from Gilbert asking, how about for Pedro variants? Where can I get all Pedro variants and what sets it apart from other local microbrewers?
Okay, cool. That's a nice question. Well, first you can order from us directly through our Instagram account, Pedro Brewcrafters, and our Facebook. So you can just DM us, or the number is usually posted there, and you can send us a message. We don't have all our variants in history available at the moment, but we're working very hard on getting that list nice and complete. We do post what's available quite regularly, or you can send us a DM and ask us what's available and what's freshly bottled. So we usually deliver from what we have, just that's fresh. That's the most important thing to us. So and then what separates us from other local craft beer breweries, I would say, is that's a very deep question, but I would say we keep the first time drinker in mind at all times, and we always, just like our own journey, what matters is the first taste, and keeping things approachable and not intimidating at all. So we try and reflect that with our packaging as well, so that it's very approachable, it's kind of fun, and it's not too serious, and we don't like to take ourselves too seriously either. So yeah.
If I may chime in on that, I really, really love the labels on your beers, because it's the kind of thing you have to keep looking at it, because the art on it in itself is just so fascinating. And it's, the longer you look at it, the more you see it's that kind of art. And
exactly,
as you say, it's approachable, it's easy to drink. I personally love Pedro beers, especially the procrastination pale ale. That's a favorite of mine.
It's my favorite too.
If I may say so myself. Okay, here's an interesting one from Sophia. Sophia is asking if there are any health or similar benefits to drinking craft beer over maybe perhaps the larger scale regular beers. And I'm going to fuse that with another question we have. And somebody's asking, how can you avoid getting a beer belly? So maybe let's try and delve into that section of enjoying craft beer. Are there any special benefits, and how can we avoid the dreaded beer belly?
I love this question. So first of all, I wanna put out a disclaimer that craft beer is not a healthy beverage. Okay, so everything in moderation, absolutely, and that's how you avoid a beer belly. Much like eating too many cookies or too much of anything is not good for you. But there are health benefits to craft beer. As I mentioned earlier, craft beer isn't filtered or pasteurized, which means all the goodness from all of those natural ingredients are still in the beer. So if you'll notice, some of the beers have sediment at the bottom of the bottle, and those include high fiber sediment from the malt. And also craft beer is alive because it's not pasteurized. So the yeast in there that gives some really wonderful vitamin B benefits as well is good for you. And it's really good for your gut. So kind of like kombucha is very good for your gut, so is craft beer. So yeah, those are just a few things.
Cool. Good to know that there are benefits, though, of course, everything in moderation, of course.
Yes.
All right, I've got another question here about pairing. I think you had quite a bit of emphasis on pairing, as well as even at Pedro Tap House, I really enjoyed the pairing recommendations, the cool snacks you can eat with your beer. And so this question is, it says, thank you for sharing. What would you pair with spicy food? Thanks and God bless.
Okay, great. Yeah, so spicy food, it depends on what your goal is really. So is it if you want to complement it, if you want to contrast it. So there are a few ways you can approach it. If you want to contrast it, a really nice way to do that is with a nice light beer. So kind of to quench your thirst. Of course, it's spicy. You might want something to cool your palate down. So a wheat ale or a lager will do that. And then if you want to complement those spices, I would go with a pale ale or an IPA. Those flavors will stand up really well to the spices. So like a curry would be really nice. And also bitter flavors kind of tamp down spiciness. So if you want to be able to take more spice, then a bitter beer will do that.
All right, there you go, pairing with spicy food there. Real quick, Nadine, I'm curious because when we do visit Ayala malls, where can we find Pedro craft beer when we do make our visits to the mall? I understand you're at Buffalo Wild Wings, and where else can
Yes.
we find you?
There's the Wholesome Table as well. So I'm not sure which ones are open at the moment, but those two are a good bet. Buffalo Wild Wings serves our beer fresh on tap, and that's actually one of my favorite places to have our own beer.
Oh, that would be great with the wings.
Yes,
That would be delicious,
so
I
good.
think. All right. Well, Nadine, I'm sure well, we're out of time for further questions, but I'm sure if anybody's got any more questions for you, or maybe questions about craft beer or pairing or where to get Pedro craft beers, I'm sure they can reach out to you. We've been flashing where to find you online. So
For sure.
that's about all the time we've got, Nadine. But thank you so much for answering our questions.
Thank you.
And
Thank
for
you, everyone.
your presentation. Great to have you, Nadine. Thanks so much. All right, everybody, thank you all for your questions. I'm sure we've all learned so much about craft beer. And don't forget that if you want to get in touch with Nadine and Pedro Brewcrafters, just grab that info seen on the screen, and I'm sure you can find them also on social media to reach out. And of course, check them out at the Ayala malls closest to you. Okay, guys, so that's just about all the time we have for today. We hope you all learned and enjoyed this bespoke lifestyle session on coffee, cocktails, and craft beer. And this, of course, is presented today by your friends at the Ayala Malls and Alveo. I'm your host, Carla Barreto, and it has been such an exciting session. I learned personally so much. I hope that you did too, about unique blending and brewing and making cocktails. And I hope we can all find ways to apply this at home, especially now during the holidays. It has been such a pleasure chatting with all of you guys today. Stay safe, stay healthy, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye, everyone.